So what we're going to be talking about here today is collisions and capturing collisions inside of Godot. I have a base scene that has been set up, and I've already kind of worked through this. Some things just to recognize over here. I've got a ground mesh. I've got a character body 3D, and I have a new object. And the objective of what I'm going to go through here is going to be to show how to get my object right here, my little character, to actually collide with this object and detect that collision programmatically. So a lot of this stuff is familiar: camera 3D, directional light 3D, world environment. My ground is established with a ground mesh over here. This ground mesh is a static body 3D. This is in layer 2. It collides with layers 1, 2, and 3. And I have my ground collision shape that I'm generated via this mesh, and this is going to be a, it's the triangular shape. My character body, my character is going to be in layer 1. So he is of layer 1, and he will detect collisions with objects of layers 2 and layer 3. Now, one thing I haven't really gone into in much depth before this is how these bits and how these masks are actually represented here. So this is actually a bit mask. Each layer is given a binary bit, and the collision is detected using an OR operation, I would imagine, internally. And so this isn't layer number 1. This is effectively saying layer bit 1 and layer bit 2 and layer bit 3 and layer bit 4 for a streamlined representation within Godot. My character is of layer 1. He will detect when he collides with layers 2 and layer 3. My new object over here is of layer 3, and this is going to detect when he collides with layers 2 and 3. So the reason I have this set up is that, imagine that I had some static bodies or some rigid bodies that I wanted to bounce into each other in and around this layer. I would put those in layer 2, but the things that I actually want to capture the collision on are in layer 3. And so, for example, if I wanted this object right here to collide with other objects in layer 2, I would add him to a layer 2 as well. And let's get this object. So this layer object, he could be a layer 2 and a layer 3. So for example, if I wanted him bouncing into layer 2s. Anyway, and then this object is just a thing that I created in Blender. He's pretty straightforward. He's green. He is a procedurally generated shape. There's just a single script here today. And if I go into the script menu, we're going to see that I've got a speed for my object. I'm using physics process, and I'm going to be doing something very familiar. I'm going to be getting the input vector by UI left, UI down, right, whatever. And I'm going to transform my direction, which was an X and Y coordinates based off of this input, into a vector 3 in the XZ plane by multiplying it by the transformed out basis here. And then I'm going to convert that into an X and Z velocity. And what we get after here is a move and slide. So move and slide is going to actually handle my operation. So when I go ahead and actually run this game, you can see, and my camera's up really close over here, this guy moves and slide by an assigned velocity. He moves left and right. This should be reviewed for a little bit. The new stuff right here is going to be in what happens after the collision, or sorry, after the move and slide. So if we detect that after the move and slide, we have collided with another object. So if in the get collision count over here, I'm going to iterate over all the objects that this character, because my script, my mover script is attached to my character, you'll see right there. It's going to iterate over all of the objects with whom he's collided. And it's going to get those individual collisions, and it's going to get the collider that was associated with that. Now, the collider is going to be the object that was struck with the collision. So what we can anticipate here is that the collider is going to be this object right here when my character collides into this collider. I'm going to now ask the question if the collider is a rigid body 3D. So I'm asking, is this basically of type that would be new object? I could generalize this and I could make it more specific depending upon the actual goals of what I'm trying to accomplish here. But right now, this is just for demonstration, and I don't want to iterate over everything. So if I can kind of narrow down my decision tree a little bit, that's going to be advantageous. You can see over here that I've got some if collision layer and 3. It's not going to be equals 3. Really, we're kind of looking to do this bitwise AND operation. And so over here, by using this notation, bits 1 and 2, bits 1 and 2 are what give us layer 3. So I'm going to have to double check that, and I'm going to leave it for us to figure out right now. I've got myself confused. That may not be the best explanation. I'll put that into the notes. But really what we want to see over here is that this collision is going to happen when this object hits an element of layer 3. And you'll notice, let's go back over here for a second. My new object, right? This new box object, and I can click to zoom on him. They are of layer 3. So this is layer 3. I am going to be checking in my script if I have struck layer 3. And if that is the case, my collider, the object that has been collided with, will be Q-freed, which is to say that this object is going to disappear. So I'm going to run this over here. I've got my guy. We already saw that he's moving back and forth and left and right. But let's take a look of what happens when I cross over into this guy. So he effectively gobbled him up right there. And that object is now removed from the actual game. One final bit over here that's worth talking about is that what this shape actually looks like. So I have my character body in this 3D vision, right? So I've got my green object. That green object maybe isn't the best to look at with all the other colors that are here right now. But if I turn that off and I were to look at my collision shape 3D, my collision shape 3D is actually a capsule. And we do this just out of simplicity and making it a little bit more straightforward for everybody here. When you have characters, typically you represent them as capsules. You're not worried about the actual physics of, planes connecting with other planes inside of here in 99 cases out of 100. You're just worried about, can this object move through the wall, or can this object strike this other object that's sitting in front of us? And so we've got a simple shape over here that's doing a reasonably solid representation of this. So my collision shape is actually the element that does the collision with this box shape over there. And it's when these two shapes collide that the collision is detected, right? It's the act of this guy colliding with that one that's going to trigger, and that is going to percolate upwards in my script when my collider over here. So the collider is this rigid body 3D, but when this collider happens to get hit, he is going to be removed from the scene. That's it, folks. Thanks a lot.